Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are going to unpack what is arguably the ultimate wealth building dilemma. We're going to put two of the most popular investment paths absolutely head to head. And to do this right, we are using a strict step-by-step checklist to find out the real math over 2 decades. There's just so much noise out there about what you should do with your money, but we're going to cut right through all of that today. So, let's dive into the question that plagues pretty much everyone, from young professionals to seasoned savers. Imagine you've got a hard-earned 50 grand just sitting in the bank. Do you buy a house or do you pump it into index funds? Look, everyone has an opinion on this, right? But very, very few people have actually mapped out the complete, unvarnished math. To get to the bottom of this, we'll build our checklist across these 6 steps: the $50,000 starting line, true hidden costs, surviving market volatility, active versus passive effort, the 20-year real math, and finally, key questions for your specific path. Let's get into it. Step 1 on our checklist, the $50,000 starting line. Let's set the stage. We're going to follow 2 identical investors, Jake and Marcus. Same age, same city, same $55,000 salary. The only difference is how they deploy their 50 grand. Jake takes his money and drops it as a 20% down payment on a $250,000 rental property. His mortgage is $1,330, he rents it out for $1,800, and boom, on paper, that's $470 a month in gross profit. He's got the keys, he's got a tenant, he's got leverage. Honestly, he feels like an absolute genius. Now, Marcus, he takes his 50 grand, drops it into a total stock market index fund, and sets up an automatic $300 a month contribution. Day 1 for Marcus is, well, it's a boring confirmation email and a number on a screen. Not exactly thrilling, right? Socially speaking, Jake is winning by a mile here. But as we'll see, feelings and math are 2 very different things. Moving to step 2 on our checklist, the true hidden costs, or basically the reality check of real estate. You know how everyone brags about their huge gross rent checks at neighborhood barbecues? Well, let's strip away the layers for a second. Out of that $1,800, Jake immediately loses $1,330 to the mortgage. Then you have to carve out property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. And suddenly you're looking at this absolutely tiny little slice representing actual net profit. The rent check is just top-line revenue, guys. It is definitely not your take-home pay. So the absolutely crucial point on our checklist here is calculating the real boots-on-the-ground expenses over time. Fast forward to year 3. Jake has collected a massive $64,800 in rent. Sounds incredible, right? But hold on, look at the reality. Property taxes ate up $3 grand a year. Insurance was another $1,500. Then boom, $1,200 for a broken water heater and $2,800 to patch up a leaking roof. Oh, and a tenant moved out, causing a 1-month vacancy that cost him $2,400 in lost rent and listing fees. After all of these, and frankly, these are completely normal expenses, Jake's impressive $16,000 gross profit over 3 years shrinks down to just $2,000 to $4,000 in actual net cash flow. It's a pretty brutal reality check. All right, step 3 on the checklist, surviving market volatility. It's time to look at the stock market reality. Now, if I only showed you the downsides of real estate, I'd be doing you a huge disservice. Stocks have massive, massive risks that people just love to gloss over when they quote average annual returns. We absolutely have to talk about the agonizing 37% market drop in 2008. I mean, imagine waking up and seeing over a third of your life savings just wiped out on a screen. Or think about the equally brutal 34% plunge that happened in a single month, literally a few weeks during March 2020. The stock market does not go up in a straight, smooth line. It thrashes around, and it can be incredibly violent. This right here is the ultimate test for Marcus. You have to ask yourself, can you stomach this gut-wrenching drop without hitting the panic sell button? Because here's the harsh truth. Unlike real estate, you have 0 meaningful monthly cash flow to comfort you. When Marcus's portfolio drops from 150 grand down to 95,000 in just a few weeks, no one is mailing him a tangible rent check to make him feel better. Surviving this kind of volatility requires an ironclad psychological fortitude. And let's be real, not everyone has that. Checklist item 4, active effort versus passive growth. Let's talk about time. When you look at these tasks side by side, the labor gap becomes absolutely undeniable. Acquiring assets, Jake is spending his weekends hunting for deals and rigorously screening tenants. Marcus, 0 hours. Maintenance, Jake is fielding those panic 10 p.m. emergency calls about overflowing toilets and chasing down reliable contractors. Marcus, again, 0 hours. What about managing risk? Jake literally faces the threat of evictions and bad tenants that can erase half a year of rent.
Marcus faces market swings, sure, but that takes 0 hours of active risk management. And for reinvesting, Jake has to aggressively squirrel away $15,000 chunks just to prep for a roof replacement, while Marcus relies on totally automatic, fractional compounding. Basically, Jake is running a part-time business, Marcus is just riding the wave.
Section 5, the 20-year real math. This is the moment of truth. Let's follow this 20-year timeline. Year 1, as we talked about, is feelings versus math. Jake feels like a genius, Marcus is bored to tears. By year 5, the reality grind is fully set in. Jake's on his 3rd tenant, he's replaced that roof, and his actual cash-on-cash return is maybe floating around 3 to 5%. Marcus hasn't lifted a finger, but his compound growth is starting to quietly accelerate. And here is where it gets fascinating. By year 10, we hit a complete dead heat. After subtracting all real costs, Jake's equity sits at roughly $175,000. Marcus's portfolio, it sits at almost the exact same number. Jake's wealth is grinding upwards steadily through leverage, while Marcus's wealth started slow but is now curving exponentially upwards. And now for the grand reveal. After 20 years of relentless effort for Jake versus passive waiting for Marcus, they land in the exact same net worth ballpark, somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. The raw numbers are pretty much a tie, but the lifestyle cost to acquire that wealth, completely different. Jake's money was earned with massive stress, concentration risk, illiquidity, taking on huge debt, and hundreds of hours of actual manual labor. Marcus's wealth was earned through extreme, stomach-churning volatility for sure, but it provided complete liquidity, absolutely zero debt, and total time freedom. Finally, Section 6, key questions for your path. Here is the final checklist you absolutely must complete before choosing your primary investment path. Answer these 4 critical questions honestly. First, are you in a strong rent-to-price market? Like, if monthly rent isn't 0.8 to 1% of the purchase price, the math might be stacked against you from day one. Second, are you truly willing to treat a property as an active business, meaning setting aside cash reserves and dealing with tenant turnover? Third, if you choose stocks, can you survive a 35% portfolio drop without panic selling? And fourth, and honestly this might be the most important one, what is your personal time actually worth to you? Your answers here dictate whether you want to aggressively work for your wealth or patiently wait for it. Because the very next time someone confidently tells you that real estate always wins, or that the stock market is the only way to go, I want you to ask them this final provocative question. Just ask them, did you include everything? Did you count the hours, the property taxes, the emergency repairs, the gut-wrenching volatility, and the leverage? Because an answer that includes absolutely everything is the only answer that actually matters. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time as we keep decoding the real math behind the headlines.